Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast here to talk about the game that everyone demanded, but no one is talking about. I am the not in the least bit salty host, David Lloyd, and this episode is dedicated to the version of Mario that is playable in only paper form. The one that started on Nintendo 64 has been slowly rolling down. Oh man, blew the intro, but I'm just gonna power through it because we are talking about Paper Mario this episode, starting with the Nintendo 64 game that Paige has recently played through. And we're going to be talking also about the Thousand Year Door remake. Here to either back me up on Paper Mario, peaking at the Thousand Year Door, or maybe she'll call me crazy. But you'll have to listen to this episode to find out which one. It's Paige Chamberlain.
Because you only wrote like to call you crazy, and I was like, "But what am I going to call you crazy for?" But I don't think I get much into it. But I did. The only other Paper Mario I tried playing before these was I guess the Origami King. I tried playing that. I returned the Origami King within like the return period because I did not like the battle system of that at all.
Maybe you will agree with me then that Paper Mario peaked at Thousand Year Door.
Or maybe before it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you play Origami King at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't even bother because, I played Paper Mario. I ended up getting. I think it was like one of the earliest episodes of the Thirsty Mage. Is like I think it's like episode 16 or 17, something like that. I think it was even crossover with Talk Nintendo. Perry and Casey had convinced me to play Paper Mario because it was just, I don't know. I've never really been I haven't really been into Nintendo RPGs in general besides Xenoblade 2, and they were, always going on about how Thousand Year Door was the greatest, and so I, jumped onto eBay and found myself a copy of the game and bought it, and so we played it then. I'm sure, who knows, like whatever I said then is probably going to be completely different than what I think of it now, because that's just the way things go 5 years later. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's funny. Like the hype for that game is just just gone on and on and on. Like it just every year, it just you hear more about it. And yeah, when Origami King came out, I know like it was one of those things where it's like, oh, it's because the series is kind of like bounced around. It's kind of a lot different from the early Paper Mario's now that it's when you have the Mario Luigi series, like they all kind of broke apart from there, and so the Mario Luigi is kind of the more RPG, and then the Origami, like the Paper Mario, is kind of moved more towards other forms of gaming. So we're at the Origami King now, and it's just kind of got this weird system.
So is your experience with the series only the Thousand Year Door then?
With Paper Mario, like I played Mario and Luigi games, but
what about Mario RPG?
Yes, I played that one too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I played like those games, but I guess we could maybe even talk about Super Mario RPG is kind of a good starting point, because really this is where everything spawned from. Like this was the beginning of
I was just gonna say where I sort of tried to get into Paper Mario was like Origami King, but I liked the wandering around, and I didn't have as much like. People were talking about how the toads all just like, all the things just toads or whatever, and that was sort of annoying, but it didn't bother me before I played. Like Thousand Year Door, I saw how toads were different, or even like Super Mario RPG where they have hair coming out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was just the battle system straight up wasn't for me. It was like a puzzle game.
Yeah.
And I'm dumb, so I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And you don't get XP either. So it's like you can't even like grind to make up for like being not good at the game. And then, Paper Jam Bros doesn't really count, but I sort of dropped to that after one of the gimmick battles before I tried another Mario Luigi game. And I did try Super Paper Mario. And that one is not an RPG. It is... well, basically they were like they decided to take the stuff, my least favorite thing from the Thousand Year Door, and make it a whole game, which was the
Yeah.
weird, hard depth perception platforming,
Yeah.
and put that in a game. I did get it because of there's still funny writing and stuff, but I just dropped it because I was like, I can't even, I can barely do this. It was, yeah. So they did two. Well, Paper Mario 64 was originally meant to be like a sequel to Super Mario RPG. And then, but then they sort of had to make it its own thing, and then they made these two games. And then for the Wii, they were like, let's just make it a 2D platformer because don't have those already.
Well, it almost makes you wonder. Like, did they, yeah, as they started making the Mario Luigi series, did they figure like, oh, we make too many RPGs. We got to go back to. And it's funny that they went like to platforming because it's like, well, you have
Yeah,
platforming Mario games.
exactly.
What
So
do you need this for?
it doesn't make any
Like,
sense. But like, it's
no,
also funny now because of these because of a couple of remakes. We're now having three Mario RPGs within 12 months of each other.
yeah.
Although I will say, I also didn't continue. I played a few hours of Pip, the not Pip, Super Mario RPG remake, and I didn't really like that either. So when the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake came out, that's actually the first Mario RPG I finished.
Oh, right.
I got
The-
I got pretty close with like when we did Dream Team Bros, but like I think I got to the very last area and I was like, yeah.
yeah.
But apparently that's like the longest in any of the Mario RPG, so it's probably just a bit too
Now,
padded
did you
and
finish it because you enjoyed it, or you finished it because you're damn well going to finish a Mario game?
No, I think I finished it because I actually enjoyed it.
Nah, that's good. That's good.
So do we want to talk about that one first, or do we want to talk about Paper Mario 64 so we're in sort of order of.
Uh, well, one we could talk about Thousand Year Door because if that's kind of because that is the game that, like you said, it's the first one that you've enjoyed,
Yeah,
and it kind of led to Paper Mario for you anyway. So
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, the remake came out last month, or maybe it was the end of May. I'm not sure.
yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
that's the funny thing about the this game. You know, I make the joke about it in the intro or whatever that how many years have people been demanding
May.
this game be ported or remade or whatever, and it finally comes out, and we I know you and I had joked on a previous podcast about okay, it's out now, everyone can shut up,
Yeah.
um, and it can be done with, and then when it actually did come out, like very few people seem to be buying it. Like I don't know how well it sold, but I just know like a lot of people who enjoyed the game back then don't seem to be too concerned about picking it up now. And on social media, I rarely hear anything about it. Like I think the only person I've seen complete it is Bob Mackey from Retronauts, and he just now, like I think in the last week or two, finished it. So
Well, I see in some people, but I think that's because like Twitter puts you into topics, so then when I start liking a few Paper Mario tweets, but
then
most
it's
of
all
those
Paper Mario.
were for people that have already like played it before, so they sort
Yeah,
of knew what they were doing with their screenshot posting. Although, like we said earlier before the podcast, that the well, maybe a month or so after this game came out, you can't post directly to Twitter anymore without having to like plug it into your computer or use a QR
right.
code or something. You can't just like do it on your Switch,
Yeah.
and that would probably make quite a difference in the amount of like not supposedly not many people used it, even though I used it all the time because a lot of people talk like, "Oh, this feature nobody," and like I do. Um, I guess
I
some people
used
do
it
it the
back
other
in the
way
day when
around,
I was
but
playing Nintendo anyway.
yeah. But like that would reduce the amount of like screenshots people are posting because you have to put a bit more effort into doing it.
Well, even like for me, on the few people that I've seen talking about on social media, the kind of going perception, I guess, was really like it wasn't exactly how they remembered it, or it maybe the when they played it, it was because they were so much younger. Obviously, it hit differently because I know like Bob Mackey had mentioned like the how like it seemed like a lot of its flaws were more pronounced in this this version, whether or not it's like this version or just now after so many years or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, because I know this one was talked up as the best one, which I think is not uncommon for a game series where number two is usually like the best, and then they still can't do any better than that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have much of a perception of it really until actually the remake trailers and stuff were coming out, and then I picked it up, finished up something else because I think I was finishing up Aiden Rising or something, and then started playing it like a week after. And yeah, I didn't like quite steamroll it like some people, but I've got work and a toddler and stuff. But I think I finished it pretty quickly. I beat it. That's within 2 weeks, and where are we? Because the 23rd, one, two, yeah.
It's like a 15 to 20 hour game, right?
I think it took me 30 hours. Yeah, so that's pretty good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one, it actually like follows up. It's not really got anything to do with the first game, but it follows up after the first game because you start in your house, and in your house is like a little photo, and it's got all your buddies from the first game in there, which is really cute because then at the end of the game, when it goes back to your house, then you've got a photo of all your buddies from this game, which is quite a nice little touch.
Yeah.
So this one, it actually sort of starts off with Princess Peach has gone on a holiday,
Yeah.
and it's focusing on her, and she's basically the main setting of the town is Rogueport, and underneath that there's like the subway sewer system, and underneath that there's this 1,000-year door, and we need to collect the crystal stars, the MacGuffins. I think there's seven. Is there seven? I think that's how many there are in both games.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, basically, well, I think we're doing it to try and find where Princess Peach is, basically, because she gets kidnapped pretty much straight away after talking out loud about the activity, her plans. But it's like that's something like we find out, we don't really know what it is until further in the game, like what's behind the door. But we do know that the crystal stars themselves have powers because to get the MacGuffin, you get to a boss fight, and then the boss, will be using possibly using like one of the crystal stars in order to actually like manipulate the power or do something. So and then when you get one, that adds into like the combat where you build up star power, can actually use those as a special attack. So like the most other Mario RPGs, I think pretty much all of them, you have the timed, like the input attacks. I think one thing that sort of threw me off from playing like some Mario and Luigi games is that you don't make the partners dodge. Because in the Mario and Luigi games, like Mario's A and Luigi's B, so you'd have to like
Yeah.
individually make them jump and dodge, and like you sort of, you just block in this, I think, but like you can't do that for the partner specifically, which really threw me off at the start. But yes, it has that, you get your hammer, you get your boots, you have to like not stomp on the spiky guys. But in this, instead of having like Luigi, you have different partners. So you start off with like you run into Gumbella, who's a university student, and she just jumps up and headbutts people. And she has a special ability called Tattle, so she likes to gossip a lot. And then when I went to Paper Mario 64 after this, like she's just sort of like a not quite a copy of another character, but like there's the Goomba in the first game also does that. It's just that like in the first game he's a little boy instead. And so that's useful. Like I just like sort of plunk her out at the start of a boss fight, and then they get the HP, so I know how much they've got, which is pretty useful. And as you go through your adventure, you like pick up quite a few. Like you get a Koopa. I think he's my least favorite. Yeah, I think he's my least favorite character.
Yeah.
I did initially think that his girlfriend was like his mum, though. So,
Oh, really?
so now I'm just more disappointed because she's spoken for. She's one of the few women in the game who aren't interested in Mario. So, so there's quite a few. I'm trying to remember like the order of them, but you've got Bella, Koops. Vivian is like a one that you get later on as you meet her a few times. About the game, I'm gonna have to search it because I finished that one like over a month ago now. So I remember one of them because they're optional. And I thought I like. There's one because like again you see the character out and about, and then I did a few because it's like chapter based. I did a couple chapters and I didn't see the character around, and I'm like, oh, like normally I see them once a chapter. Oh, them is Mouse, and then I was like, oh, because you can actually have her as a partner through like this request system. Which did you ever do much of the side quest in it?
No, when
No,
I
this.
when I was playing, I was I was pretty much mainlining.
Yeah, the like eventually you have a way to walk faster, but like the way the quests work is like you go to a quest board in the town, you can only accept one at a time, which is ridiculous. Like that's
Yeah.
just something else, and then you got to like go there and then go back to like do it. So it's I didn't really bother with it, and then I did some later in the game, and they were not really worth it either. So I just, but
Well, I'm
one of
glad I didn't bother.
them it gets you like a different partner character, and I thought, oh, I could have had her for 2 chapters, but I think it just like I think I got her pretty much as early as you can get her. Um, yeah, so you just run into them throughout the story. You've got Madame Flurry, the Yoshi Kid, which is in so you get like a few guys by like the first 2 chapters. Yoshi Kid, Vivian, Admiral Bobbery, and Miss Mouse, and then they've written another character with Flavio in brackets temporary, which is funny. Um, so yeah, we've got Gumbo Koopa, Flurry. Flurry was actually very useful. I didn't use. She's probably my least used partner, but she did have like the attack where she could just blow enemies away. So if I'd ran into a fight and I just didn't want to deal with it, I would just use
Rely on that.
some flower points because yeah, your HP, your flower points is your skill points, and then like the star thing, which like I said, once you beat a boss, you get like this new one. So there was one of those I used a lot, which was like the earthquake attack, which went on for quite a while because you have to like press A at the right time following this line, and it just goes on for like five up to 5 times or something. And it's like, oh my god, when is this ending?
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't. I think I don't mind the what do you action like? What do you call the system? Whether you got to like timed command hits or I don't know. You've just got to input certain things in order to actually deal damage, and then if you do it better,
Yeah.
you
Well,
you
that's
get
been my
better
biggest
damage.
complaint with all the like even from Super Mario like because Super Mario RPG. I don't know if it was the first game to um, kind of introduce this mechanic, but it's certainly the first one of the Mario RPGs where yeah, like there's Mario's about to punch and you have to time a button press to make the punch better or worse, and then it's the same with like deflecting. Like when someone's attacking you, then you have to block at a certain time and I just it's never in any. I don't think there's been ever a game that I've actually enjoyed that mechanic. It
Okay,
just seems like extra work. It's like,
I
well,
don't.
I'm already doing the strategy. Like, why do I have to
I
time the attacks?
I usually like it because it's sort of, in a way, it's also considered sort of a gateway into just getting to turn-based combat where people don't necessarily like it. So you feel like you've got a bit more control and like you're actually active in it. So I
Yeah,
liked it in, say, like South Park, Stick of Truth, and some stuff like this. Although I do feel like at certain points in these games, because I played one back to back, like when you're stuck in a certain area, so you're just having to use this particular attack, and then you can like get really sick of doing the exact same input because you have hammer attack and then like the Cooper like they're similar. There's not too many crazy variations in like what you actually have to press or tilt in order to do things. And I think the only other thing I didn't particularly get good was like the blocking most of the time,
yeah,
or like there's a perfect block or something that I didn't really get. Um, so that's all pretty basic. There's also items. You can only hold like so many, so I was constantly having to just like, and you get find so many, so I was constantly having to like drop and shove them away and like never use them. And then there's a max to how much you can store too, which was really annoying. And that's in like both these first 2 games. I think the only other combat thing is the badges, which is I think the badge. I don't know if the badges are in Mario and Luigi. I think they have equipment and not badges. So like then you got so when you level up in this, you choose between increasing your health, your flower points, or your badge points, and then you find these badges which are equipable items that use badge points. So like some that are really good, need 4 or 6 badge points. So then you're missing out on other little bonuses because you can only sort of fit in a certain amount. So obviously the number one badge I went for both games was the partner swap badge, so you could swap your partner around without wasting a turn.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and that was like extremely useful. So I wouldn't. And then there's one so you'd put it on in certain areas. So like, and then I forget I have it. Like you'd have the ones that let me stomp on spiky enemies, and then just after a while, forget I could do could do that. It doesn't apply to your partners though. So the Gumbella can't headbutt stomp spiky enemies still. And yeah, occasionally I'd use the one good item was probably like the live stream. So like when I gamed over, I didn't game over because I made one silly mistake. Um, one neat feature about at least in this remake, you've got the you can see when enemies have an item because it's just sitting behind them. So you know like this guy's got a stopwatch, so I'm going to try and take him out like immediately. So you've got a bit more strategizing, which you kind of do anyway, because you have like a mix of different enemies, and certain ones like heal the other ones or buff them. So you're like, actually, I'm going to take care of like the weak guy or the stronger guy first. So like it mixes it up enough.
Oh
And
man, 87 badges.
wow, that's a lot. Yeah, you
Yeah,
get
well,
them
there's
for like doing all
85 in the
sorts.
original and then 87 in the remake.
Oh my god. Yeah, and then a lot of them are like, some extra health or extra that, or like, helping out your partner a bit more, things like that. So like you can really customize it, and you can make some like this. The Thousand Year Door has a lot of like post game extra sort of content outside of the main story stuff. So because it's like the pit of 100 tiles and things like that. So it's definitely like to help people make certain builds. Um, one thing that's unique to the Thousand Year Door though is the audience system, which is like whenever you get into a fight, it looks like you're on a little stage and there's literally people in the audience. So when you miss an attack, people just get up and leave. When you do good
Yeah.
attacks, more people join.
Yeah.
And like, so it's basically that is what helps builds up your star meter a little bit, is like the crowd enjoying the fight and, to use your special ultra powers basically. Um, and they can like throw rocks at you or helpful things. So sometimes I would just kick a toad in the face because I thought he was gonna throw something like I just saw the prompt and automatically hit it when it was a positive thing. Certain things I definitely made it easier though because there was a bit where the mist would like not fall down and freeze the enemy, but it wouldn't freeze me on my side. And I just thought it was weird that it was like something that was like definitely only happening on one side.
Yeah.
um, I think it was fine, the audience system, but when I played the game before and didn't have it, I didn't really miss it. And I feel like some boss fights actually looked a lot less cool. Because there's this one where you're on a train and it looks pretty cool, but then it cuts into the stage and it doesn't look as good as if you were just on the train fighting.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah.
and they never
Yeah.
went back to it, so although they didn't really go back to they really changed a lot of things after this one. So that's like the main like combat and that. Outside of that, like there's some mini games I didn't interact with. This one, yeah, there's like, even though we said like Super Mario was like platforming, like both of these first two games do have some platforming. One main thing in this one is that it goes into the paper gimmick a bit more, where you get cursed, so you turn into a paper airplane. And, like all these curses are actually just beneficial things, like turning into a paper airplane or a little boat, to help you like actually progress throughout the world. And
Mhm.
I say that I don't hate those. I just hate I don't like the platforming in these games because you're like you're actually 3D object, but like, visually you're 2D in a 3D environment, basically like you're a thin little slip of paper. So I had a lot of trouble with the depth perception and just falling off and having to re-go up a whole thing because of that. So I definitely wasn't really a fan of that, and then they decided to make a whole game out of it. So that's, yeah, not for me. In terms of actually getting through the game, at first I wasn't really feeling super into it because it was just sort of like, you go to the first area, you beat the guy, you get the MacGuffin, you go to the next area. One thing I did like though was like that obviously I've heard some of these songs in like, I don't know, relaxing Nintendo music compilations, and then when I get to like Bugly Woods, I'm like, that's what this song is for. Like, this is where it's from. Um and I think And then, yeah, the third chapter, which is one where I sort of started to like it, even though it was actually probably the most repetitive chapter, because in the third bit, after you just sort of gone through dungeons and things like that, you go to Glitzville, and it's like a tournament arc. But like, unfortunately, like, there's some other stuff going on, so like investigate that where you can. But it unfortunately it's very repetitive. Like every time you get out of a fight, the like Jolene will tell you the exact same thing, and like you were just like wasting my time. Like I don't need you to tell me this again. Um, so like that like annoyed me in the repetitiveness of it, and if you just got to keep going through it. But I did really like just that it just sort of started getting different, you know, like just not going through the we're going to the forest area, and now we're going to the weird forest area, and then we're like, okay, so we're having a little tournament out to break things up. And then we go, you know, another chapter in the game is like a murder mystery. So for a second I was like, oh thank goodness we actually have a chapter where we're not doing combat, and like it ends up that you sort of do midway through like a small little section that's sort of like a dungeon, but like it was sort of nice to have that break of not actually having to just go through all these fights. So they do mix it up a bit. Although, like, I know one people's only complaint I heard just before getting it was like backtracking, and that they had fixed it a little bit because there was like some more pipes that weren't in the original version. And but yeah, there was definitely still backtracking, especially like, just don't even bother with the quests. To be honest, they're just the worst for that. And the one of the last chapters was just awful for that because it was like there's a character that you've seen at the start of the game, and then you go to this area and they say, I need to get this guy. So you go to where he is and he's not there. So you're just goose chasing him every time just because he's goose chasing you, basically. And that was not fun at all.
Yeah.
I don't like that one bit. And like I literally looked at like why does this suck so bad? And everyone's like doing like a comparison, like, you know, because like I guess both that number chapter is a snow world in like the first game and the second game, so we were like, yeah, no, that's definitely better in the first game. And then yeah, visually it's very nice. Like I didn't think, you know, again to play the original, but like you don't think it's too different until you're watching someone's video of the original game and you're like, oh, not just like, you know, the resolution, but like straight up like there's more stuff in the background, more lighting, shine, all sorts of things that make it look like really nice. I didn't have too much trouble with the frame rate though, like I guess because I hadn't played the original in terms of it impacting my input or anything like that. And not very often did the like, you know, hundreds of guys on the screen really mess up the game too much, like not enough for me to notice. um so I
I
was
don't.
fine with
I
that.
don't think there's enough action in the game to really be like, oh, you know,
Yeah,
this is ruining the aesthetic or whatever. Like it's, you know, I don't know the reason why. Like I'm sure it's probably mostly like the graphics, like the because it's much sharper graphics. Like they went with the higher resolution, whatever. So now, you know, maybe they just wanted to prioritize the optimization, whatever. Like they'd rather just have it run smooth at 30 and not have to worry with the 60. And I mean, when you're playing handheld at whatever, like I don't know, I can't imagine it's not make or break. Like it's not, you know, it's not like playing Fortnite on a PC or Fortnite on a Switch, like where the HD graphics are going from like, you know, these rocks and then all of a sudden they're like just gray
yeah.
polygons or something. Like it's
Certain switch ports where the colors get so horrible.
yeah, like it's not,
um
yeah.
oh yeah, do you know what color Yoshi you got?
Uh, no,
Because
I don't. It's
I
been so
cheated.
long.
Like I just didn't quite get like the timing of whatever. So like I just like I'll go with whatever I get first, and then I got a white Yoshi, and then I was like I hate his hair, so I
Oh,
like
yeah.
reset a couple times because I was only like it's based on like the time between you grabbing the egg, and I grabbed the egg first thing, so I only had a couple options to choose between, and I did a couple times, and then I got like the black Yoshi, and I went with that and called him Kazuya. But he's very useful because you can ride on the poor little guy, and you go faster.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that's also in these games that I don't believe are in any of the others is like there's sections where you play as Princess Peach. Um, well, she's kidnapped and she's the computer has fallen in love with her, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
and
definitely
they're
like,
hiding like on the moon or something too, right? Isn't
yeah,
it something weird? Yeah,
yeah. The writing is definitely good and funny. It's just like I
yeah,
don't remember everything now because it's been, like I said, I went like back to back. But it's like well, it's something I sort of expect from my RPGs. To be honest, though, is to like have the humor and all that in it.
yeah,
Um, Whereas the story itself is sort of whatever, but like it's all about just like the little moments between characters, and then that's one thing this has a lot where your partners are with you, and depending on like who you have out with you, they'll just sort of say a line relevant to like whatever's going on,
yeah,
and that's super useful. You can like swap out your partners and like have different reactions to the NPCs. And like so something that's I really like because I got to actually know the characters. Um, But yeah, one thing that's in these two is like I said, yeah, the playable Peach sections, which were like they were okay. This one also has playable Bowser sections, and I didn't really care for those at all. Um, but in general, this game has like lots of just fun little things. Like I'm not into like some of the post game and stuff like that. Although I did really like that the post game actually is post game. Like a lot of games are like, oh, just set you to just before you beat the game, so you never like get to see the like. Not that the world was super impacted by what was going on
yeah,
until the end, but like you never get like a lot of games. You don't get to see the world sort of at peace after you've done your job. You just set back to just before you do it. Whereas this one is like Mario goes home and then he comes back for a visit and everyone's at the port waiting for him. And I'm like, that's really nice. Like I really appreciate that.
yeah,
And one thing, I mean, both of these games have though is like, especially like I'm going through my screenshots and like there's a lot of, what they say, charm and like just little details. Like,
yeah,
there's a little standee that hot dog standee Mario can stand behind, and different partners do different poses, and just like all those little things like that, and it's definitely the remake that got the most attention from Nintendo in
yeah,
recent, like, and not just like a little bit, but like a lot really, in terms of like just how we're talking about how it looks, and it's like yeah, definitely very like going all out. Um, so like overall, yeah, I did like it quite a bit. Obviously, like I said, I actually finished it. I beat in 30 hours. I didn't mess around too much with extra stuff. There's some really great moments in it, like especially like there's like, oh, I don't know, I want to let some people who haven't known about the game to actually like experience things for themselves. But there's like one bit where it's like, oh, you think you can like beat someone early because you already know like the trick, but like the game actually puts something away so you cannot actually do it early, and you're like, ah, dang it, because I already knew about it before, but now I couldn't do it.
yeah,
Which is really funny. But yeah, so for me, I guess the only real negative points, I guess, are like that sort of backtracking, and like yeah, there's not much. I guess yeah, I didn't really have much too negative to say about it until then I went back to play the first game, where you have there are some little things that make me prefer the. I'm not sure which one I'd rank higher, honestly. Like I'll talk about it in a second. There are things that it definitely has an advantage of in terms of my personal interest. Like I don't care about stuff like post game and things like that, so I don't care
yeah,
that having the pit doesn't make a difference to me. But um, aside from a couple of things, like if the Paper Mario 64 had like a couple things, I probably would technically like that one better. Yeah, so after pretty much, I was like, oh, I beat Thousand Year Door. Maybe I'll go play Paper Mario next year. Like, don't want to play too many of the same series at once. And then I basically immediately went into it, like within 48 hours of beating the Thousand Year Door. So,
well, when you're on a
um,
roll, you just, stick with when you're in that rhythm. I guess that would be it.
yeah, like, well, sometimes I get stuck
Yeah,
between large periods of not even playing games. So it's good to like actually be in the zone for it. So I played the Paper Mario 64 on the NSO expansion pack app because it is somehow more expensive than the Thousand Year Door before the remake made the price drop. It is like Australian dollars, like power copy, like $500 game.
holy moly!
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
I'm not paying that much for it. That's more expensive than
Yeah,
my most expensive N64 game, and that's like in a box and everything.
yeah, it's really
Um,
weird because I know some N64 games go for crazy, like trying to get a Smash Brothers or man, that's probably like the most expensive one I can think of on I didn't think Paper Mario was that bad.
And yeah, they're and PAL copies also can be, they just didn't sell as well, or it might not even be in English and things like that. So that can definitely be harder. So yeah, going straight into Paper Mario 64, I was mostly that things are pretty much it's I felt like it's like you're going from like P5 to P3 where you're like, oh, a lot of these things are in the first game, not the first game, but an earlier game. So it's not super hard to go back to, even if there are things that are different. Although the start of the game starts off like once you get into it, like it's a fairly longish intro segment. Um, you don't have the command inputs. It's just regular turn based for the start until like past the prologue, which is really weird. And I'm like, I could have sworn I saw people like things of it, but yeah, it was just like, so I was really confused for quite a bit about that. And yeah, this one initially, I thought the aesthetic was not particularly paper aside from the guys, just because like it's N64, so they're doing a lot of like obviously 3D models. But then I saw stuff like the bridge pop out from the Goomba Castle. I'm like, okay, they're doing it a little bit. Like they're showing off the paper. When you open up into a house and the front of the house folds down and things like that. But
I
it's
did
just
the I found the pipes hilarious because like right at the beginning, he comes out of the house and he goes into a pipe, but because he's paper, he does kind of like a flushing down the
yeah,
toilet
swirl.
swirl. I thought that was kind of funny and that was what stood out to me too. I'm like, oh, it's not all paper. He's like in a 3D world, but he's paper, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah, whereas like I think in later games they really go into like most things paper sort of gimmick. So how much did you play of this one?
No, not much.
Not much.
I got a few hours into it. I don't know.
It's
It's
alright. I won't spoil the very intense story of that Peach gets kidnapped by Bowser.
yeah,
you,
I got that
you
far.
can't get, yeah.
I laughed. Yeah, I laughed at. Yeah, like so Bowser. I guess like the premise of the story is that I mean it's like it's just your typical Mario story where it's like Bowser ends up. I think he like steals a star rod that makes him invincible. So and you're supposed to at this point know that I guess like Mario has already beaten Bowser a few times, and so when Bowser shows up, Princess Peach and Mario are kind of and it's funny, Mario doesn't even say anything. He's silent protagonist at the beginning at least. But Peach is like, "Oh, you can't beat Mario. What are you doing?" And then he uses the star wand, and then Mario gets like just beat up or whatever. And I think this is Peach's castle gets like put in like he Bowser comes up from like the ground like his castle and like scoops up Peach's castle and he gets tossed out or whatever. And I guess like the premise of the story is Mario has to get uh, you know power
Yeah.
himself up to be able to take on Bowser.
Um, yeah, so basically, I think it's really funny that Peach's main buddy is called Twink too, every single time she's called him that. But I said it's definitely like, oh, you can definitely tell where it was sort of meant originally started off as like a sequel to my RPG because it's like, once again, we're having to collect the MacGuffins because someone has stopped everyone's ability to make wishes. Like without the star rod, that's what all the main the crystal star, the crystal up the I forget the star guys. They're like actual stars as people in this. Um, that they use that to grant wishes basically, and so all the little stars like Twink and stuff can't do anything without it. Um, but like even this game, like there's tons of cute little details. Like there's a section where the fuzzies are annoying the Koopa village, and you see the Koopas without their shells, and you can see them wearing like a big singlet with their tail out. So they're like naked almost. And they did the paper bit a little bit. Like there's a bit at the start of the game where you walk past the sign and like you look at it and it says "Beware of Goombas," and then he just folds off and jumps at you, and like that really took me by surprise, and I thought that was so funny. Um, One thing I think, yeah, and I say combat's like I said pretty similar once you actually get to the um, having the command input and like there's no audience system at all. Um, and you don't have to use inputs for once you get your MacGuffin crystal, your star power, basically. It's just you got to build up the points, but like I don't. I think they just. I think it just. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. The one little difference was like the partners don't have health. they can get incapacitated for a few turns. And they can't use items, which is like how I game overed early because I just assumed they could do something, and they. I found this game not like too hard, but like it was definitely harder than the Thousand Year Door. Like I got plenty of game overs, and it took me a lot longer to get used to the timing for attacks as well, like attacks and
Yeah,
dodging.
that's what I thought too. It felt like it was less forgiving on when to hit the button.
Yeah, it
So I
was
don't know
definitely.
if like I don't know. I've never felt I've been overly terrific at those types of like time based attacks to begin with, but it just felt like I was never hitting the button when I was supposed to be.
I think once you pass the prologue, the game sort of gets into it a bit faster. Like you have three partners before the end of the first dungeon, which is like, whoa, geez, guys. Like, um, and I do like some of the designs a bit better. Like I like Cooper in this one. He's like blue and he's got a little neckerchief. I don't. I kind of like Bombette's design, but I don't really either because it's like, oh, how do we make the Bob-omb a girl? We'll make it pink. We'll make her turn key look like fairy wings, and we'll make her wick like a ponytail.
Yeah.
So it's definitely kind of cute, but I also kind of don't like it too. Um, and this one, I think I like the dungeons a lot better too, like the castle. I like also that the enemies don't seem to respawn quite as quickly. Like I went through that whole Cooper Tower or castle or whatever, and that no one popped back up, unless I came back to it again. It did sort of happen in some later ones, but that was like after like quite a while. Like I'd gone maybe halfway through it, or come like I guess there's certain reset zones or something. So I really liked that because I had Thousand Year Door. You sort of come back and you've got like you walk back and you're like, oh great, now I've got to deal with these guys when I'm just trying to like figure stuff out basically. Um, and the partners wise, yeah, you've got maybe I think you actually have one more. This one you got Gumbario, who kind of does the same thing as Gumbella. You've got Koopa, so same sort of thing. You got so you get your bomb character earlier. You've got Parakarry, so you've got a flying Koopa, and he has like a mail gimmick. So I did that a lot. There's like a big mail chain quest. So I just kept on top of that until it unlocked. Like said you need to deliver it to an area I hadn't been before. So then I was like, all right, now I'm on top of the quest. I don't have to backtrack to older areas. I did like the letter system because there's a bit where you just you find letters to give to people if you have Parakarry with you, and you go to the post office and like some of your partners get letters, and it makes them pop out, but they don't react to the letters they get, which is really weird because like one of them is getting a letter from their mum or from their friend, and they pop out to read it, but they don't say anything. So it definitely feels like maybe I mean, I think
Missed
it's. I
opportunity.
mean, I'm pretty sure it happens with all games where just stuff just can't make it in time. But that one definitely, like, it's an obvious, like, oh, this needed. This obviously was meant to have some more dialogue in it or something. And that's like one of the negatives compared to A Thousand Year Door is that you barely get to really know your partners. Also, combat wise, the BP is maxed to like 30, so like I was very upset about that. You can't level it up
Yeah.
past that point. And I was like, what the hell?
I'm
But I have so many
imagining
badges.
the cartridge, like the fact that it's on a cartridge, probably creates a lot of like they can only do so much on the cartridge, so it's
Yeah.
like where's the give and
See,
take, I
if we
guess,
had
like.
Paper Mario on the PS1, then everything. If we had
Yeah.
the Nintendo PlayStation, everything would be well with the. That'd be a horrible monopoly. Oh um, and it's also nice to see like things that carried between the few games. Like there's this little guy called Wackadoo, and you hit him, and you get like a super. Because he's just like, I'm Wacka, Wackadoo, woo, and like he's just like having a good time, and you hit him on the head, and you get like this bump, and it's a really useful item, which is really funny because I held onto a heap, and then I didn't even have to use it for the final boss in this game, whereas I definitely had to for the Thousand Year Door. So like I hit him a bunch of times for nothing. I will say that apparently my you told me not to buy the reversible plushie of him, but I did. Um, now it's saying that it was supposed to be delivered, but I don't have my slips, so I have to yell at the post office to give them to me, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's like the tracking from Etsy is like, it's waiting in the post office, but like, I didn't get the slips, so it's like, how am I going to get it without a tracking number? I don't know. Just, ah,
You have to contact the seller.
oh, you probably wouldn't. Like, I'm just skipping through my screenshots to sort of give me an idea. But like, there's a bit where I'm back to paper, the Thousand Year Door, and it's like there's a guy that like asks you to invest, and I'm like, no, you dodgy. And then it turns out like, yeah, you totally get something if you do. There's only like one thing I kind of missed out in Paper Mario 64 was like there's like this guy's like got stuff pig stuff, and it's like you can collect these pigs, but I didn't find them anywhere, so I just thought like he doesn't explain it very well basically. So like I could have been collecting cute little pigs this whole time, but now like where I'm in the game, because one thing about Paper Mario 64 is like when you hit the credits and it ends, like you got to turn the whole thing off. It doesn't go back to the menu. It's
Oh,
just
really? It's one of those.
but you can physically like walk your way back from the end area of the game and go back to do stuff, because there was like a side boss I didn't even do, because it's like, oh, there's this guy is blocking Cuba Village, and then he was way too tough for when I got to him, so I just completely forgot about him because I don't need to go there. And I did eventually find the warp pipe place, because like there's a bit that you can get to kind of early in the game, but when I first went into it, it was like no, where it's like the sewer system, and you need to eventually get through it. So like I just sort of went through, and it was quite mostly semi easy because I was meant to go through it throughout the game, and I just didn't notice. But it's still got a lot of the funny stuff. Like there's an enemy who like says, are you Mario? Like what's your name? And you got Mario, Luigi, or Princess Peach. And if you say Luigi, like he lets you pass. Um, but then I went backwards and just knocked him out anyway, so I didn't have to deal with him anymore. Um, yeah, it is funny that like it doesn't have an audience system, but the visual presentation of like when the battle screen does kind of look like a stage. Like it's got a little box around it. Um, and yeah, it's definitely, so it's got all that like that charm and stuff too. It's just like the only thing is that the characters of the partners aren't as fleshed out, which is there's a bit it's like there's this character who's like a main character in Thousand Year Door, and she can like sort of copy your looks basically. And in Paper Mario 64, that's just like a regular enemy in a particular dungeon. So I was like, oh, I didn't know he was like, actually just like a species. And then for the second game, they're like, oh, let's, use this guy, this like one of these guys a bit more. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I've just lost my train of thought now. But one thing I definitely, like I said, I think I definitely like I guess the dungeons more. They feel a bit not not linear, but just better designed.
Yeah.
But like a bit less boring maybe. So I don't know how far I got into the game. Did you? I gotta double check his name. I think it's Junior Trooper. Yeah. Did
Probably
you?
not that far.
Have you dealt with
No.
the guy with the eggshell on his head?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I guess my biggest problem too is I got so I like this is my fault, but
Yeah.
I was playing on a less than on a platform that Nintendo would not approve of,
Mm.
and I got so far, and then I accidentally I have hotkeys for the save states, so like I have a save button and a load button. So I had played for like 2 hours or something, or maybe just less than that, and then I accidentally hit the load button, and it took me back to the beginning of the game,
Oh
and I
no.
hadn't saved in like
Oh
that whole time,
no.
and that was the end of my play. I'm like,
Yeah.
forget it. I'm not doing this
I
again.
I have one thing I learned with like the Switch apps is like, so technically they can just save via the technical save, but if you use a save state, then it totally wipes that inbuilt save you have. So I
Oh,
just
really?
so
I
yeah,
didn't
I
know that.
just I just stuck with like the manual in like the in game save, and just didn't
Yeah,
didn't touch that because I have had that problem.
that's weird that the
Um,
save states would wipe that out. Like, you think
see,
they'd be separate?
I know. Actually, I know I've gotten distracted multiple times because I started talking about the mail system and forgot to talk about the other party members. You also have Bo the Boo, so like a lot of these function sort of similarly. Like so you have like your Koopa, you have like your ghosts that you go down invisible for. You've got things like that. One guy that you can ride on eventually. Bo is like the Ojo Sama stereotype of the rich girl with she'd have ringlets if she had hair, but she's got two bows on her head and she has the fan out. And she goes ho, 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 like at the end of fights. She's literally just that. It's so
Oh, yeah.
funny. So I think she's a fave. You also have a little baby. And everyone thinks it's a baby son until you try to use what against a fire enemy, and then you're like, no, she is a Sparky. She's electrical, not a sun. She will get burnt. There's also a, I think, is she a, yeah, she is a cheap cheap sushi, and then a Lakitu as well. So you've got like, yeah, one more party member in this than like they dropped the number for the next one. Um, so I am a bit more impartial to, like, to them because there's a baby. It's just got a little dummy in its mouth. Or
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah, did your Canadians call them pacifiers or?
Yeah, we call them dummies too, though.
Okay, because like, uh,
Pacifiers, dummies,
there's certain words where it's like,
suits.
as an Australian, like maybe what word Americans use, like, so, diapers instead of nappies. So like, but when you try to use your word to them, they get very confused because they've never had to hear the other
Yeah,
original
and
terms, whereas
uh,
theirs, and it's like, so
dummy
you.
would be a funny word too, especially if that wasn't what you like. You sucking on a dummy. It's like sucking on a what? Yeah,
Um, but I do like seeing sort of what stuff got carried over because, like, you get the peach segments in this game as well, and there's a bit where it's like you're trying to follow like instructions in a precise time. Like, so the first game you're baking, but in the second game you're making like a potion basically. But it's like it's kind of like they just like sort of followed up and did some similar things. And you've got characters that carry over, like the fortune tellers, which one of them you pay money and you get like a bonus, and that was I definitely gave them the max money to get the max bonus because like it would just randomly give you more coins or more XP or whatever.
yeah.
So I'd use that every single time for sure, definitely.
Well, it's funny because I watched like I did watch some gameplay like after I got booted out of the the game. I was like, oh, I better watch some of the gameplay just to like later on or whatever to kind of get a feel for like what it was. And it's funny because like Thousand Year Door, like I know it's like a sequel in a sense, but it almost feels like one of those things where it's like, okay, we got this new console, and it's kind of opened up the possibilities. Like you wonder if they went back and said, okay, why don't we like make the game we wanted to make, sort of thing, where they're kind of taking a lot of the elements from Paper Mario and being like, well, now that we have the space, let's build upon it. Like, let's, it's clearly not a remake of the original the Paper Mario, but almost like a, let's make that the game that we kind of intended to make, or I just kind of get that vibe from it, I guess.
Yeah, there's like bits where it's like characters and callbacks or like clearly sort of carrying on from that, but there's I don't know if it's just because in one way because it's like fresh more in my head, like I'm going through the like my pictures, like I'm sort of like because I can remember it like a little bit more. Um, yeah, I keep I keep getting sidetracked because I was talking about like this guy and this guy. Yeah, there's yeah, when it comes to characteristics, there's like one dungeon where like those duplicating guys. I forget what the normal ones are called, but like so they're copying your guys and you have to pick the right one, otherwise you have to fight all the other ones. And
Oh yeah,
Bombay got really
yeah.
mad at me because I didn't recognize her. And I'm like, she's spoken like 4 or 5 lines throughout the entire game. No, I don't recognize you. So like that was the point where that flaw was a lot more apparent, where it was just like, yeah, I don't know, I don't know you really. I barely use you in battle. Not that you'd say anything anyway. Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, so you don't pretty much rarely you kind of get yes or no sort of answers. Mario in Thousand Year Door gets to like actually say things. Sometimes really mean things, and then you get told
Yeah.
off. Whereas he doesn't. He's very silent, pretty much in this game. Um, but I do think aside from like some little things where it could have been like almost like a perfect game like with the BP and like the partners and stuff, I think I actually like the first one better. Even though
Oh, it's
Mario looks kind of funny in it. I don't know what's off about him. I just because maybe it's because he's like a pixel sprite in a Nintendo 64 game or something.
well.
But
I also like he seems smaller, like
maybe,
than
yeah.
he should be to a certain extent.
I,
Like I know
initially, I thought
he's not.
like, oh, maybe because he doesn't have like eyebrows, but neither does Thousand Year Door Paper Mario. So, but like something around
Yeah,
his hat and hairline looks a bit funny.
yeah,
Peach looks a bit off too. I think it's because they tried to put color in her eyes, and then they just decided to go with like the black dots for the.
yeah.
And this was also sort of when her hair color wasn't still set in stone, where sometimes it was more like strawberry blonde, almost like mixed between red
Yeah.
and yellow. Um, but yeah, and
Did
I
you?
don't. like I feel like the first one was a bit funnier, but I just maybe it's just again that I don't remember all the moments in the Thousand Year Door.
Yeah.
But there's definitely
Recency
some like
bias.
real like stand up bits that I don't want to say because I want people to play it, and like some of these are like late game stuff, but they're really just like you have a recurring gag and then it like shows up when you don't expect it, and that's really I really
Yeah.
like. I also
Do you need the expansion pass to play the 64 games?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. But that's definitely a lot cheaper than like in terms of getting it legitimately. It's a lot cheaper than.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I
And like
understand.
I bought the expansion pass because I got like with my whole family group because it was for the first year it was cheaper than buying like 3 copies of the Animal Crossing DLC basically.
Yeah. Well, there's
um,
that, and the GBA games are in the expansion
oh
pass too,
that
right?
too, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fun. The GBA games have more fun filters to mess with. Like it's funny going to these older apps and then it's like, oh, I can't put a CRT filter on this game. Whereas
Oh,
like I
yeah.
on the GBA app you can like make it small and give it like a filter to make it look more like the original screen. Because you don't really, and you can even change like with the Game Boy ones, you can change like whether it's black and white, colored in a bit, or like the green scale sort of thing.
Yeah. Did you? I can't remember. Did you finish Sea of Stars?
No, I dropped it partway through the game.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think it's
I
like I just got a bit, I can maybe a little bit like I feel like I was going through the motions basically, and then I ran into like a boss fight. I wasn't like a surprise one that wasn't ready for it. And I was just like,
yeah.
and then didn't pick it back up.
Well, it's funny. I only ask because Sea of Stars is kind of like it uses a similar battle system to a certain extent, where there's like a lot of time based attacks, and I'm pretty sure they referenced Paper Mario as a inspiration or whatever.
One of the and I reviewed a few games last year. One of the indie games I reviewed that I actually liked was Virgo versus the Zodiac, and that had the input commands, but it was pretty harsh with it, and it was pretty harsh with the strategy too. Like if you didn't like take care of the guys in the right order, like you were you were dead. Like once you go past that first area, it got a bit easier. So I do, and then I almost I did stop myself and like go into something else, but I did almost like jump right into Bug Fables, and I played like I got into the first area with that before I put it down because I
Yeah,
was
I think I played about half of that because I
um,
got through a few dungeons, and it like it's definitely the closest thing to Paper Mario that's not Paper Mario.
yeah, because yeah, it's definitely I was on a roll of Paper Mario, and the only other ones I've got to play is like in my house is like Super Paper Mario, which I didn't like, and Color Splash, and I was like I should play something different, so I tried that for a little bit, but and then in terms of other games that try to be Paper Mario, I played like the Born of Bread demo, but I really didn't like that because it was like I was having trouble with the timing of dodge, and like you have to guard correctly in order to build back your like skill points
Yeah,
or to like hit basically. Like you have to like it's not just like a oh so you don't have to waste so much healing items. It's like you have to do this in order to be able to play the game. So I was just super not interested. It was like one of those times where the demo definitely turns you off because it's like oh I don't like that like the way it plays at all, and that's not going to change. um, and I don't know if that sold too well either. But
you know what's what I mean, they're not exactly the same, but uh, the Paper Mario series reminds me of Voice of Cards in the sense of like they have kind of a simplistic battle system. There's no time based attacks in Voice of Cards that I
no,
recall, but they still kind of use that basic RPG system. But at the end of the day, like both games are really relying on like the charm and the interactions and like the small details. It's more about the other things going on.
although one other thing the Paper Mario these early ones have is exploration too, because like you go and you look behind things and stuff like that, and then like you just walk behind somewhere you can't see anything, but you walk behind it, and then you pick up an item you can use to exchange for badges or to
Yeah,
you
it's true.
find the thing to upgrade your party members, which you definitely need to do. So like everyone but like Lakista, I think, was upgraded by the max upgraded by the end of the game. Um, so it does have that little element too, and that's something I really like in RPGs. Is like if you're gonna give me this extra space, there better be something in it. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, I recommend both of those games. For sure. I think I don't know if I'm the weird one in terms of I think like they're both pretty good. Like I don't know, like 7 out of 10
Yeah.
sort of good. Not wow because obviously the stories are sort of simple and things like that. There's minor things that bother me. But I just have a slight preference for the 64, even though
Yeah.
there's nothing super wrong with Thousand Year Door. There's things in it that I wish were in the original game. Unfortunately, the mod that like makes Paper 64 like the Thousand Year Door, it doesn't fix like the only thing I really care about, which was like the partner. The
Oh yeah.
partner's not talking much. That just adds like more badges and like things like that, like areas and stuff into it as like a ROM hack. It's not what I need. So
So you got Paper Mario slightly over Thousand Year Door, but where does the where does it rank with like Mario and Luigi series games?
well, I haven't actually beaten any Mario and Luigi game. Like I said, I did put the same amount of time into
They're
Dream.
longer though.
Yeah,
Like those
well,
are a lot longer.
because I think I don't know how long Paper Mario 64 took me. Maybe almost not. I think it was slightly less time um than the Thousand Year Door. I think maybe have a screen of it somewhere down here. But I know I'd put like 30 hours into like Mario and Luigi Dream Team Bros, and I still wasn't done with it. Whereas I beat 1,000 Euro in 30 hours, and I beat Paper Mario 64 in 20 hours.
Yeah.
Um, so like if that was like not padded out, I probably would have also beaten that. Um, I'm not sure, just because the last one I played was quite a while ago. I definitely like having Luigi, and like the cool attacks, especially in Dream Team where it gets crazy, and like being able to dodge with him, like things like that was hard to adjust to outside of it. And I do think they're both funny series as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like the Paper Mario has like I prefer the battle system of Mario Luigi just because there's a little more to it, more. But I kind of think the charm is a little bit better, at least in the Thousand Year Door.
mm.
Like I can't speak to the other Paper Mario's, but I felt like the Thousand Year Door just had a better like it was paced a bit better and had like the moments were a little bit more funny or meaningful or whatever compared to Mario and Luigi. I think.
Well, I think Mario and Luigi sort of trying to be funny like the whole time and not just bits at a time as
Yeah.
well. But I'll see how I feel when Brothership comes out. I guess then I'll.
Are you a
Maybe,
day one for that one?
I think so. I get maybe depends on my budget actually. That I say that, but like,
See what
but
else is releasing around the time. That's
oh yeah,
2025, right? Early
no,
2025.
that's this year. Like I
Oh,
said,
is it this year? I thought it
yeah,
was okay.
and that's what I mean. 12 months. We've got Super Mario RPG. We've got Thousand Year Door remake, and then Mario and Luigi Brothership comes out just less than a year before the Mario RPG remake.
Jeez, I guess we're going to find out if there's Mario RPG fatigue setting in.
Yeah, that's see how it sells when they've been. But this will be like the actual first like new one too, so that kind of
Oh yeah, that's true because the other two were
yeah.
remake versus brand new experience.
But yeah, there's a lot coming out after this month. Like this month's not too bad for me. It's like a couple of games I might get on Game Pass or like stuff on other systems. But after August and that,
But
not good.
does this one come out around the same time as Dragon Quest 3?
Let me have a look. I was just going like trying to get on my pre-order list of like I just use the retailer, which means I miss out on like actual like, digital only stuff. But all right,
Yeah,
so literally, yeah, the week before.
yeah, that's what I thought. Because
Yeah,
as
because it's yeah, I'm just
it's
going
like
through.
November, right?
Yeah. So this month not much. There's some stuff I'm interested in like August that's like semi packed with like not too big stuff. September the main things like Zelda, and then depending on your region, Renatus comes out either September or October.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then
When's
October we
Metaphors is October, right?
yes, Metaphor is October. Like that's not even like yeah. So Metaphor is October. Romancing Saga 2 remake is in late October. Mario and Luigi Brothership is the 7th of November, and Dragon Quest 3 HD2 remake is the 15th of November.
Oh man, that's a packed holiday
It
season.
is very packed. Oh, East 10 Nordics got an October release date, didn't it? Just before the other day.
Yes, yeah, I
So,
think
oh
so.
yeah, it's and I'm supposed to be going on holiday at the end of the year. This is not.
Oh, and Echoes of Wisdom is the end of September.
Yeah, that's September. So, and that one, I feel like it won't be too crazy long day, so it's not quite as bad
Yeah,
as like all the
so,
RPGs shoved together.
yeah. So
and
Metaphor is the 11th. Oh yeah, Ease 10 is October 25th.
yeah, it's and then something I didn't talk about when we were doing all our Nintendo Direct and Summer Games Fest. There were a couple things I can't remember the second thing, but there's a few things that we're still waiting on, like the Suikoden 1 and 2 remasters.
Oh yeah,
There's no
yeah. They
date
could
for that. What if they
no.
put that in November?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a little concerned. Maybe they're just going to delay it so that they have a chance to breathe. They haven't
Well,
given us a set
if
date
they're
again.
waiting
So.
for a break in the release schedule, they might be out of luck for a while. Like
Yeah,
the
not even January is safe anymore.
no, no. Well, and then who knows? Like the Switch 2 could be early in the year or next
Mm,
summer too. And like as soon as that comes out, you know that everyone and the dog's gonna want to release something early in the life cycle of that. Because
yeah.
especially like when you look at Switch, like so many indies did so well at the beginning of the when the Switch first came out because like they didn't have 10,000 other games that were on sale to contend with, you know. So everyone's gonna is likely gonna want to be there for early on. They probably it makes me wonder too if there's going to be like a tidal wave of games like you know if you've got a game that's a 2025 like are you just kind of sitting on like are you just not bothering with the Switch at this point you're just
um,
sitting there waiting for the Switch 2 to come out so that you can drop it like I think if I was an indie developer and I had like a PC game that I was porting I think at this point I would just wait for Switch 2.
yeah. Probably a good idea. Yeah, just another game's coming out in October is the Fantasy Life I, and that's like a one I have to get to.
Oh yeah.
It might be a year where it's like, yep, those little niche anime games aren't getting bought, and then I won't be able to find them again. Because
Yeah.
in Australia, you go, oh, I can't find this game. Like you didn't pre-order it, the store's not getting more than 2 copies of it. Too bad.
Yeah.
Basically, if it even releases here.
Yeah,
Um,
that one seems like it could easily be a digital only
yeah. Wait, which one?
fantasy life. Like I'm
Yeah, I
sure
haven't seen it
somewhere
listed
it'll
at retailers yet. And
physical,
it's
but
supposed to come out in a few months, so we'll see.
yeah,
Yeah, and that does generally stop me from, like I said, I don't want to spend this much for a digital game. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, we won't have trouble finding games to talk about.
No, no,
I mean,
just
I
one
have
after another.
yeah, I've had a break to just work on something that I'm trying to get done, but after that, like I did start up Monster Hunter Stories, like the first game port. I've put like 10ish hours into SMT5 Vengeance. I'm on the monster collecting games at the moment, actually.
Oh yeah,
I'm just lucky that I said like I've sort of got a break this month, but I don't really because there's like some non RPG stuff. Like I played the demo for Kinetsugami. Like that's going to be one of the Game Pass ones, and the game I didn't really talk about in our Summer Games Fest, like Dungeons of Hinterberg, because I'm like, and I'll just have to Game Pass them rather than buying them because, or one of them I can't get on PlayStation anyway, so it's like I might as well I have to play it on the PC. It's the only way I can get it.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I've
and
it's been any games that are come on Game Pass. Like I actually kind of appreciate being like, oh, you know, saves me a few bucks if I can just at least play this here and
yeah,
because it's just yeah, like you said, there's so much coming out, so you got to take advantage of the ones that end up there, you know. And it seems like a lot of these Game Pass games, like if they're not owned by Xbox, they're only going to be there for like a year.
yeah. Well, it's just good because these two that I'm going to use their day one. So and like yeah, so one of them's like $75. So it's just like no.
Yeah,
No. So yeah, well, yeah, possibly I'll have like one other monthly releases. Maybe I'll get back, on the podcast to talk about those ones. And then we'll there'll be some smaller releases here or there before we get into October and November.
yeah, I know. I know the next episode is gonna um, Jordan and I will be talking about Trails Through Daybreak, which is an amazing game. So looking forward to talking about that. I'm playing, or I want to finish. I've played like Persona 3 twice, and I've gotten to like 80% done of twice, and I'm like, no, I'm playing through Reload. I want to get it done this time. Like I want to see the end credits.
Yeah,
And so I'm playing that on Game Pass. Save some money. My biggest concern was like I'm gonna get like 80% done, and then they're gonna pull it off Game Pass, and then I'm like, well, I'm not buying it on Xbox, like.
yeah.
So I'm trying to get through before they pull the rug out on me. But I feel like I should have a few months left still for that one. So
Hmm, hopefully.
yeah,
So yeah, we'll definitely be talking about games, some of which are RPGs.
yeah,
in the yeah, I don't know. I feel like this year's a lot better than maybe the prior year before that, where we're a bit like, even if something was coming out, we'd play it, not necessarily want to talk about it because we didn't actually want to play anymore. So this time we're doing a bit better.
yep. Yeah, it feels like one of those years where the games that we've chosen to play have panned out for the most part. Like yeah, like I feel like I'm finishing more games this year for sure.
Mm, which is good. Like, it's never a race really because you'll never win, but like
No.
it is a good feeling to beat them still.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely it feels good to see those final credits.
Mm.
Cool. Well, I think it's probably a good spot to wrap up this episode. So yeah, it's this was our callback to the Paper Mario. It's been 5 years, I think, I guess, since we've talked about the Thousand Year Door, and now it's we've had it compared to, and we've got the official pronouncement from Paige that the original Paper Mario is better.
Yeah.
It's canon, set in stone. So yeah, if anyone out there's got the NSO, well, I mean, and the good thing too is that a lot of people who own Switch are in that NSO, so now you have access to the best Paper Mario.
Mm. You don't
So
even,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's definitely a saving from buying the remake Thousand Year Door to the original, but you've got to save even more money with the NSO membership versus a copy of Paper
yeah,
Mario 60.
exactly. It's like you're saving $450
Yeah, great.
Australian. Yep. Awesome. Well, then I want to thank you, Paige, for joining me for this episode. And yeah, we'll see everyone out soon. We'll have, like I said, some Falcom coming up and plenty more to talk about in the coming weeks. But until then, I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.